And welcome to the Flipping and Wholesaling Houses in New York show. I am Michael Pinter, where I teach you how to start flipping or wholesaling houses, or if you're already doing it, how to grow your business. So, topic came up today about when something's too good to be true. This is a tricky topic because occasionally something really is true. I've had situations where I thought this is too good to be true, and it actually was true. But as you get more experienced in the business, you start learning where things don't make sense. So I'll give you an example. I had a seller that one of my JV partners spoke to, said the house was listed for sale and it fell off. Now, it's an area I know had tremendous amount of Hurricane Sandy damage. That was 10 years ago, in 2012. When things fall out at the end, and I looked at the house, it was not lifted, and it's surrounded by houses that were lifted. Just some background. There are people, 10 years ago, seems like yesterday for me, my house got flooded from Sandy. Hurricane Sandy really came in and flooded the crap out of a lot of parts of the South Shore. Unprecedented storm surge, and it was a mess. Really, at the time, felt like the world was over. We had no power. I had to, me personally, my personal story, I had to, a tree fell blocking my front door. I had to saw my way out of the house. And another tree was laying on top of my house. At the time, really, the world felt like it was ending. Right, we didn't have power for weeks. It was a mess. There were places that got power back right away, but my area didn't. Town of Hempstead, right, biggest township in the country. One of 3 towns in Nassau County. There's only 3 towns in Nassau County: town of Hempstead, town of North Hempstead, and town of Oyster Bay. Town of Hempstead is most populated. Again, more people in the town of Hempstead than any other township in the country. They didn't know how to react to it, just like nobody knew how to react to it. So people called and said, what the hell should I do right away? And a lot of people were told, just fix it up and don't worry about it. Soon after, they decided at the town of Hempstead, and some other townships too, that we're not going to allow anybody to rebuild unless they lift their house up. We're not going to give you a certificate of occupancy, a C of O, unless you lift. Now, what does that mean? There are plenty of houses that don't have certificates of occupancy in my area. There are probably dozens of thousands. Some of them were built before the building department ever existed, right? Building departments didn't really come into play until like the 50s. There are properties in our area built in the 1800s. So if they didn't do any major work and needed a permit, they don't have a C of O. You can certainly live in a house that doesn't have a certificate of occupancy. And you can rent a house that doesn't have a certificate of occupancy, right? What you can't do is get a certificate of occupancy. Now, a lot of buyers, when you sell a property, need that. So here's a story what happened here. Someone said, hey, I want this house. I was in contract for X. I'm going to go much lower. Sounds very good. At that point, I said, we got to check with the town. And lo and behold, the way the town of Hempstead worked is they gave everybody a traffic light rating. Either you were green, which meant you had no damage, yellow, which meant you had moderate damage, or red, which means you had significant damage. Now, understand, it's completely subjective. A lot of these people who gave these rankings, they had no idea what was going on inside the house. There were houses on my block, one house got flooded and the house next to it didn't. Houses that had basements got flooded, houses that didn't have basements didn't. Almost impossible. And somebody went around with a pen and said yellow, green, or red. Now, if you got marked red, you cannot get a certificate of occupancy unless you knock the house down and build it up, or at least lift the house. So this house that I'm talking about needs to be lifted. Lifting can be, people say, oh, I can lift a house for $60,000. Let me tell you what happens when you have to lift a house. You got to pay somebody to lift it. You got to pay somebody to disconnect the sewer, the electrical, the plumbing, if there's gas or oil. Then you can pay somebody to lift it. Lifting, let's say, costs $50,000 or $60,000. They pick it up, they put it up on stilts. But that's not the end of it right there, because then you have to build a foundation around there that you drop the house down on. You have to build stairs to every entrance. So if you have 3 entrances in your house, you got to build 3 sets of stairs. If you have you want a patio in the back, you got to build a new patio. And the lift, by the way, is not so simple either, right? I thought about lifting my house. My house has part of it built on a slab and part of it built on a crawl space. I had put a new kitchen in on the slab. I would have had to redo the whole kitchen. So it's not simple. You have to put a foundation on. You have to drop the house down. You have to reconnect the sewer, water, electrical, gas, or oil lines, and then you've got to cover it with some kind of fascia that hopefully matches. So it's probably $100,000 job today. So this house, I mean, we came back to her and said we can go $100,000 less. She's thinking about taking it. But I don't want you to be jaded because this whole business on some level is too good to be true, right? The fact that we're going to buy properties at a huge discount and be able to assign the contract or double close to somebody else and make 50, 60, I made $180,000 on a deal once, $185,000 on a deal once. It's almost too good to be true at all, the whole thing. But there's so much work involved in getting sellers to agree to you don't feel like it's too good to be true. I remember I once had a buyer who showed up on a property, $10,000 more than what I thought was going to be our highest offer, said he can close in 2 weeks. I'm like, this guy's never going to close. And he closed in 2 weeks. So once in a while, things are too good to be true, and they actually come about. But when you do this business for a long time, you learn what is really too good to be true, right? Somebody called me with a seller situation. Seller wants to sell at a huge discount. I'm like, why? It was a property in Queens. He goes, he wants to move to the Bronx. I'm like, that's not such a big move. Queens and the Bronx are not that far. He wants to sell it at a discount because of that. So in general, if you want to send me a deal, I ask for 3 things, right? And I go over this a lot because I still get properties that do not meet these 3 criteria almost every day. The first is, I want you to be in touch with the decision maker. As an aside to that, I don't want listed properties, right? Someone just showed me a property that's listed. I'm like, if it's listed and it's been there, it was on the market for 2 years and it didn't sell for that number. So here are the things I know. It's not worth that number. I can't even pay what it's worth. I think the house was listed for $400, and I know it's not worth $400. So what's it worth? Let's just say $350. I doubt it, but let's say $350. If it's worth $350, I can't pay anywhere close to $350. I have to buy properties at a discount to make. I have to pay $250, let's say. So that's number one. I want you to be in touch with the decision maker. I don't want it to be listed for sale. There's rare exceptions to listed for sale. I don't want to go through them now. Number 2 is, I want you to have some idea what it's really worth. What's the ARV, the after repaired value, or the as is value? I want you to do some research. I'm not going to hold you to it. But I recently had a guy call me with a deal. I'm like, how much is it worth? He goes, I don't know. I go, you don't know? I go, guess what? I'm not turning my computer on and searching for this when you don't know. I go, do a little research into it and let me call me back. Guy never called me back. I think he got pissed off. I don't care. You need to know approximately what it's worth. Just give me a Zillow value if that's what you wanted to give, but something. And the third thing is, you need to tell me a story. What is the seller's story? Why are they going to sell it at a discount? Right? If you don't know that, then you don't have the first inkling of whether this is a deal or not. Telling me a guy from Queens wants to move to the Bronx and that's why he's selling at a discount does not make sense to me. Right? Tell me he's moving to South Carolina. Tell me someone's dying. Tell me the property's in terrible condition. Right? Listen, in general, we buy properties at a discount for one of 4 reasons in New York. One is condition problem. It's in horrible condition. They don't want to fix it up. They feel like anybody who's going to buy it is going to want them to fix it up, or they feel like it's unmortgageable and they can't sell it to a regular user. So one is condition. Second is time. They need to close really quick, very unlikely, or because it doesn't happen in New York, or they just need an open-ended contract. They don't want to be on a buyer's timeline, right? Sometimes people just don't want to be on a buyer's timeline. Maybe they're building a property somewhere else. Maybe they're buying somewhere else. They don't know where it is. They want to get into contract and know that they have time. So it's time issues, condition issues, time issues. Third thing is municipal issues. Unpermitted additions that they're afraid are going to come up. Open violations, open permits. It's typical municipal bullshit that we deal with in New York every day. That's 3. And 4 is tenant issues. There's a tenant there that won't leave, or there's a tenant that, even if they're paying rent, they're not leaving. They're not going to let them show it. Those are the 4 reasons I usually buy. If someone doesn't meet any of those 4 reasons, I am telling you now, it's very unlikely that it's a deal. Very. Now, sometimes they won't tell you all those things, right? I had a situation where someone didn't tell me that there was an unpermitted addition on the house, and I had to work around it. But you need to know a story when you send me a deal. You need to know why this guy may be inclined to sell at a discount. Now, if you tell me they just inherited the property, they live in another state, that's a good story. That's a good reason. Tell me they have financial problems, that's fine. Those things all work. Those are good reasons why they want to sell. But if you don't know the reason why a seller will sell to you or me or any investor at a discount, you got, sometimes people tell me reasons and I'm like, that just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, right? And these are the kinds of things that, it's too good to be true. It's probably not true, right? The guy just wants to sell at a discount. And very often they'll come to you and they'll go, well, it's really worth $800, but they want $750 for it. I'm like, that's not enough of a discount. It's going to cost me over $50,000 to buy it, hold it, and sell it. So those are the way things work. I hope this was helpful. If you're interested in all the ways I can help you, go to howtoflipnewyork.com. If you're interested in finding out more about one-on-one coaching, go to coaching.howtoflipnewyork. For my program where you learn how to do what I do at home, go to howtoflipnewyorkcourse.com. I need to change that name. If you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching on any media channel, please click the thumbs up. The likes help the algorithm. More people see my videos. So thank you. And please keep the comments coming. I post 5 times a week. I don't always know what to say. Ask me any questions you have. It does not have to be about the video you're watching. And if it's something simple, I'll reply with a quick answer. If it's something that I've covered recently before, I'll send you links to videos. And if it's something new or I haven't covered in a while, I'll do a brand new video on it. So thank you very, very much for watching.